Hi, it's Kyle from Bitewing Games, and today we're learning how to play Cascadito, a brand new game from Reiner Knizia. It's the little sibling to Cascadero. So if you know how to play Cascadero, you're going to learn this lickety-splickety quick. In Cascadito, you are drafting dice, marking next to that colored town on your player sheet. As you place marks in specific places, you'll be able to move up these tracks, earning points and bonuses as you go, and competing for objectives. The point of the game is to win, and you win by having the most points. Points are scored as you mark off sections on the tracks. Let's take a look at the setup. Set out the 6 dice and give each player a pencil. Pick one of the 4 maps and give each player a copy of that map. For your first game, I recommend map 1. Each map will show a few areas. The kingdom, a map of towns and empty fields. Some maps may include a river. Success tracks. This is where you will record your successes. Most maps will include 5 tracks. Map 1 doesn't include a white track. Next is achievements. The upper achievements can be claimed by just one player. The lower achievements can be earned by each player. Finally, the solo track is listed here and is only used if playing solo. I'll go over solo mode at the very end. So to play the game, randomly select a start player. That player will indicate they are the blue player. Then the player to their left is the yellow player, then the orange player, and the last player is pink if playing a 4-player game. The start player rolls all 6 dice and places them in the middle of the table. For any of the maps, set aside any dice with the blank black face. For the first map, also remove the white dice, as indicated on the player sheets. The start player selects one of the available dice, placing it on their player sheet, and marking an empty field next to their chosen color. If you can't or don't want to, you can take a dice but just not mark anything. Or you can take a dice and mark the next available river space. After you've taken your dice, the next player clockwise will take a dice, mark a spot on their sheet, and turns will continue around and around. If it's your turn and there's no dice left, gather all 6 of the dice, re-roll them, and set aside the forbidden dice again. And turns will continue like this until the end of the game. What you're hoping to do is not just fill in areas, but you want to move up the success track by triggering town scoring. You'll trigger town scoring if you mark next to a town, and that mark is part of a group. A group is 2 or more adjacent marked fields. So this is not a group. This is a group, and this is a large group. The mark you just placed also has to be the first contact that group has made with a particular town. So placing a mark here is the first time this group has contacted this town. So you'll do town scoring. This is also the first time this group has made contact, so you'll do town scoring. Marking here connects these 2 groups, and this group is already in contact with the town, so no town scoring here. And town scoring is simply placing an X on the success track of that town you just contacted. So being part of a group and first contact with this pink town lets you mark off the next pink space. If you mark off a space with a symbol, you gain that bonus. This bonus lets you mark the next space on any success track. So I mark the orange here, which lets me mark another spot on any track. When I mark this space, I get to fill in any empty space on the map. I could fill in here, which would trigger another town scoring. On your turn, you may meet the requirements for one of the objectives. These top row objectives can only be achieved by the first player who reaches them. Once a player has achieved that objective, all other players will mark the lock, indicating that this achievement is locked and no longer available. The first achievement is to have all 4 boxes checked next to the single fleur-de-lis. The next objective is to have 2 boxes checked next to the double fleur-de-lis. This objective is for having 3 of the same colored towns connected in a group. This is an example of all 3 pinks connected in a group. This objective is for having all 5 different colored towns connected by one group. And this objective is for the first person that reaches the final space on the river. Each of these objectives are worth 5 points. The other objectives can be earned by each player. If you connect 2 blue towns through a group, mark off this objective. It doesn't score you points, rather it lets you mark off 1 space on any track. And the other objectives are all the same, just for the 5 different colors of towns. Although there is no white track, there are still 2 white towns on the outskirts of the kingdom. The game will end once one player has achieved all of the achievements on the bottom row, or when all of the upper row achievements have been claimed. The game ends immediately once one of these conditions has been met. Use the boxes on the right of your sheet to count up your points. Earn 5 points for each of the upper achievements. Score points for each track color, earning points for your highest marked location. If you reached the top of the track on your given color, earn the higher indicated points. If you have crossed off all the spaces in the third row, you earn an additional 10 points. For the river, earn points for the highest point you reached on the river. So, in this example, you, the pink player, earned 10 points in achievements, 5 points in blue, 3 points in yellow, 8 points in orange, and 15 points in pink. You earned the bonus 10 points for having this entire row marked off. You earned 10 points for having reached the 10-point marker on the river. Total your points and the player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the player whose castle is further to the right, the person who went later in turn order, wins the tie. There are 4 maps in the game, and you know how to play the first map. The changes in the maps are significant, but not too confusing. Map 2 has raiding bandits. If you cover these regions, you'll mark off the bandits, scoring for those at the end of the game. Player sheet 3 has 2 rivers, and includes bonuses on field spaces. When you cross off that field, take the bonus. And for the 2 rivers, one starts from the left and the other starts from the right. Since the river is part of the landscape, marked river spaces count like normal spaces when forming groups and triggering town scoring. On player sheet 4, rather than connecting towns, you are now focusing on connecting crowns. There are also star spaces, which allow you to place another adjacent mark on your board. And that's how you can cover these good symbols. If you cover 2 matching good symbols, you will also earn points. Each of the maps has unique achievements that tie into the unique maps, and they're all explained in the rulebook. Alright, on to the solo mode. For the solo mode, what you're going to be doing is playing the game essentially the same, but each round you'll just take 2 dice and then mark a timer moving towards the end of the game. So you'll roll the dice. If only 1 or 0 dice are able to be used, just re-roll the dice. Take one of the dice, marking your sheet like regular, and then take a second dice, again marking your sheet like you regularly would. Mark off one of the dice on the solo track, which is essentially a timer. Re-roll all 6 dice, taking 2 more dice this round, then mark off another box, and continue until you have crossed off the last box. Ignore the usual multiplayer endgame conditions. Rather, once you mark off the last box on the solo track, the game ends immediately. Score the game like usual and see how high of a score you can get. For a slightly shorter, more difficult game, mark the first 2 dice boxes off before you even start the game. And now you know how to play Cascadito. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Until next time.